Welcome back to our series of interviews for GIES today. I'm delighted to be joined by Bashar Al Natoor, who is Global Head of Islamic Finance at Fitch Ratings. Very nice to see you. I want to start specifically with the banks, and then we'll move bigger picture sovereign. A little bit of a double whammy for the banks. They are facing the headwinds that conventional banks face in terms of global slowdown, oil prices, etc., but they also have their own problems. How would you characterize the environment for them right now?
I think it's important to note they don't work in isolation. So as you said, they're exposed to the same risks that are in the conventional banks and the global economy in general. And on top of that, Islamic banks has their own fundamental challenges, i.e. regulation, standardization, and acceptance by the wider investors. And they need to deal with that on top of what's happening in the global environment. Maybe it's worth also highlighting that Islamic banks by nature should be more linked to real economies, and that has its own also implications in good times and in bad times.
Yes, I hosted a panel this morning with the chief executives of 4 Islamic banks, and as you say, regulation, standardization, level playing fields were all things they feel frustrated about. Are they rightly frustrated about this?
Frustrated, that's their own feeling, but I think we lack currently not even standardization, harmonization. We're not yet talking at the standardization phase. There is a lot of regional institutions that are trying to set accounting standards, corporate governance, and what have you in terms of the way. However, the actual adoption of the regulators in each individual country is different.
Yes. But that's a problem, right?
Of course. At the end of the day, you have the standards, you have the regulations that are regional, but each regulatory choose to implement, not implement, or make it compulsory or not compulsory to implement these regulations.
What about a comment from one of the panelists this morning who said that standardization leads to a dampening of competition in the sector? Do you agree with that?
I think the word standardization for me personally is something that we're very far from. We should talk about harmonization because Sharia and Islamic finance by nature allows difference of opinions and difference of approaches. I think what needs to be standardized and need to be clear, and it's also linked by Sharia, is every party knowing its rights and obligations.
Yeah.
Specifically when you're talking about legality, acceptance of investors will depend on that. So I think what we really need urgently, or the industry needs urgently, is harmonization and a full understanding of rights and obligations of different parties.
Are these banks going to grow as quickly as some would suggest they are going to grow? UAE, of course, wants to be number 1 in the Islamic finance space, number 1 in the economy space. Is that going to happen anytime soon?
In general, I think the growth of Islamic banks, although they will continue growing, I think we will not see the same level of growth because the initiation phase, which has started almost 40 years back and took its toll in the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen double-digit growth. I don't think we'll still see growth and strong growth, but I think with the industry maturing, the growth will be a little bit slowing.
Let's move it on to the sovereigns. You've got Saudi on negative, you've downgraded Bahrain. Clearly the oil price is an issue and the effect that's having on reserves, and of course then the knock-on effect that has on the banks. Can you imagine we'll see more action on the rating side on the sovereign space?
I will not comment on the rating side, but the thing is, maybe make it more relevant to the Islamic finance. I think the reserve is being impacted by lower oil prices, having an impact on the liquidity of the banks and pushing the corporates down the stream to look for other alternatives could help in issuing sukuk and bonds. And then it will have a trickling effect, and we will see some sovereigns maybe coming to the sukuk market to have more liquidity and finance their ambitious expansion plans.
Bashar, thank you very much indeed for talking with Reuters. Bashar Al Natoor, who is Global Head of Islamic Finance at Fitch Ratings. That's it for that interview in GIES today. Plenty more to come. I'm Axel Threlfall, this is Reuters.